Is the big secret behind Jungkook and Jimin's solo success that has been hidden by the global music industry finally revealed to the surface? Check out the in-depth analysis and shocking confessions from observers of the United States music industry that will change the way you view competition at the top of the K-pop world forever, a revelation that left the ARMY around the world speechless 1,000 languages. Before we dive deeper into the secret passageways of the Hollywood music industry, make sure you like this exclusive report. Write your thoughts in the comments on who you think has more influence. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss a chapter of this long, thrilling investigation. Have you ever imagined what is really being talked about behind the closed doors of soundproof boardrooms in the skyscrapers of Los Angeles and New York, as the bigwigs of giant record labels and the most influential music curators in the world gather to define the future of global pop? A big question now hangs in the air, creating tension that almost anyone who follows popular culture can feel right now, which is about what really happened when two of the biggest icons of this century, BTS's Jungkook and Jimin, began stepping on their respective solo paths. For years, the public saw only a glittering surface, a narrative of friendship and mutual success. But a new report leaked from the inner circle of observers of the United States music industry is now beginning to peel back layer after layer of reality that is far more complex, far more technical, and far more shocking than even the most devoted fans ever imagined. This tension began when a closed-door panel discussion attended by senior executives from the largest streaming platforms, as well as music critics from America's leading magazines, leaked a market analysis document comparing the artistic and commercial performance of the two big stars in detail. What they found was not just numbers on paper, but a paradigm shift in how an Asian pop star is defined in the eyes of Western markets. On the one hand, we see the figure of Jungkook, the GoldenMaknae, who seems to have a touch of Midas, where every note he sings turns into a world record. But on the other hand, there is Jimin, a virtuoso with emotional depth and an artistic aesthetic considered by some observers as the true secret weapon of the Korean wave. Silence suddenly struck the fan community when one of the senior observers, whose identity was disguised for the sake of his professional security, gave a very provocative statement that the American industry had actually long been conducting a market psychological experiment through these two talents to see which way the future of pop music would sail. That if we look further back, this phenomenon did not appear overnight, but rather went through a very long incubation process and was fraught with tremendous mental stress for the artists. Imagine the pressure that must be borne when each of your breaths on stage is analyzed by thousands of pairs of expert eyes, looking for a crack in your perfection. Jungkook, with his natural charisma that is often compared to pop legends like Justin Timberlake or even Michael Jackson in certain aspects, has managed to break through boundaries that have been considered impossible for male soloists of Asian origin. However, American industry observers provide a subtle but deadly hidden clue. They assume that Jungkook's success is not an artistic coincidence, but the result of a very precise branding construction designed to satisfy the Western market's thirst for a new American pop boy figure, but with an unshakable Eastern work ethic. Meanwhile, Jimin's case presents a much deeper and emotional mystery to observers in Hollywood. If Jungkook is perceived as a sharp and direct spear, then Jimin is water that seeps into every crevice of the emotions of his listeners. Critics in America noted that Jimin had a unique vocal frequency, something they referred to as androgynous soul, that was able to appeal to audiences from a variety of demographics without having to try too hard to be pop in the traditional sense. The most profound surprise came when an analysis of streaming data showed that Jimin had a much more loyal listener retention rate among alternative and indie music listeners in the United States, a fact rarely raised to the surface as it was masked by massive numbers of Jungkook's more radio-friendly hits. This created an implicit friction among decision-makers in the music industry. Should they support the pop mainstream path taken by Jungkook or explore the artistic niche path pioneered by Jimin? In the midst of an increasingly heated debate among industry insiders, ARMY around the world began to feel that there was something different in the way the major media in America gave coverage to both. There's a very subtle pattern, almost like a secret code that can only be read by those who really pay attention to small details. For example, in some exclusive interviews, the questions asked of Jungkook always revolved around chart dominance and collaborations with top producers, while Jimin was often confronted with philosophical questions about self-expression and identity. This is not just a matter of personality differences, according to observers, but rather a systematic attempt by American industry to group these two stars into different strategic boxes. This raises deep anxiety, because if the industry starts messing with them, does this mean that the organic collaborations we've come to love so far will be slowly eroded by much larger, cold-blooded business interests? The story is all the more tense when we consider the psychological aspects of the two stars. Imagine being in their position, where every individual achievement is always compared to the closest colleagues who are already considered like their own brothers. American industry observers note that there is a dynamic of very intense, healthy competition that is invisible to the camera. They see how Jungkook continues to push his physical and vocal limits to achieve near-robotic technical perfection in his precision, as if he is running against time to prove that he is worthy of being on top of the world alone. On the other hand, Jimin seems to be moving in a different orbit, spending more time in self-reflection and the search for a voice that truly represents his soul, which at times makes him look more vulnerable, but at the same time, much stronger emotionally. It was this tension between technical perfection and artistic vulnerability that became the subject of heated discussions in the elite bars around Madison Square Garden after major concerts ended. Then came a surprise that really shook the fundamentals of the music industry one fall night, when a Grammy-winning producer accidentally posted a demo of a song on social media that was reportedly a secret project involving the two stars with a very different approach than anything we've heard before. Although the post was quickly deleted in a matter of minutes, its digital footprint has sparked conspiracy theories among industry watchers that major labels in America are plotting a market dualism that would split audiences into two major camps. Why is the industry so obsessed with dissecting the merits of each of them as if they were laboratory subjects? The answer may lie in the harsh reality that in the multi-billion-dollar global music business, emotions and art are just commodities that must be calculated mathematically. Observers emphasize that Jungkook's merit lies in his ability to adapt to any genre without losing his identity. He is the highest form of a performer in the digital age. However, they also provide a sharp critical note. Will this versatility one day make it lose the depth that a more mature audience is looking for? This is the point where Jimin comes in as a perfect contradiction. Jimin doesn't try to be everything to everyone. She chose to be very specific, very personal, and very intimate. Jimin's merit, according to experts in America, is his ability to create a cult of beauty that goes beyond music itself. People don't just listen to Jimin, they feel Jimin. And in an increasingly cold and digitized world, the ability to touch someone's heart directly is a very frightening force for its competitors. The feeling of surprise felt by the ARMY at this time was not without reason. The information that begins to leak seems to open the veil that there is something much bigger that is being played behind the scenes. It's not just about who's better or who's more popular, but about how a global power is trying to dissect the secrets of K-pop magic through its two strongest personifications. There's a tension that creeps in as we realize that any praise American critics give Jungkook may contain a challenge for Jimin, and any recognition of Jimin's artistic genius may be a hidden pressure for Jungkook to further innovate. This is a high-level chess game where the board is the whole world and the pieces are the feelings of millions. As time went on, this narrative constructed by American observers began to shape public opinion in the West in ways we never expected. They began to create in-depth profiles that sometimes felt too sharp and provocative. There was an article recently circulating in limited circles in the New York entertainment industry entitled "The Prince of Pop versus the Soul of K-Pop," a comparison that blatantly puts these two friends in a very tight competition ring. The article claims to have internal data on how social media algorithms and music platforms treat Jungkook and Jimin's content differently based on demographic preferences that have been secretly mapped. Does this mean that their artistic freedom is actually being limited by cruel market expectations? This question continues to haunt and create an incredible sense of curiosity about what will happen next. The emotional touch in this news is even more felt when we see how the response of the closest environment of the two artists has been. There were reports of late-night conversations at the studio in Seoul, where they shared the burden of expectations of a world that seemed to divide them. Observers in America see this not just as an ordinary celebrity drama, but rather as a modern tragedy in which two souls united in the same struggle are now forced to stand on two different mountain peaks by the pressure of a global industry. This makes us wonder, is the incredible success they're achieving today a gift, or is it a golden cage built by corporate interests who want to squeeze every drop of their creativity for maximum profit? In this early round of revelations, we have just touched the surface of a huge iceberg. The merits revealed by American industry observers about Jungkook and Jimin are not just empty praise. It was the result of a cold and calculated surgical analysis. They see Jungkook as an unstoppable growth engine, a vocal and visual athlete capable of conquering any stadium in the world. However, they also see Jimin as the lifeblood of this movement, a figure who gives artistic credibility and an emotional depth that makes this phenomenon not easily forgotten. However, behind all that excess, there is a big secret that has not yet been fully revealed, a clue to a major project involving a Cold War between record labels in America who are trying to fight for the exclusive right to manage their solo careers. In the future point, one of America's most respected music journalists tweeted, "The world is not ready for what will happen when one of them decides to completely break away from the mold that has been made for them." This sentence immediately sparked a storm of speculation. What does disengage mean? Is there dissatisfaction hidden behind their perfect smile? Industry observers note that there are small signs of artistic rebellion in their recent selection of solo songs. Jungkook increasingly ventured to explore more mature and explicit lyrics, and Jimin increasingly entered into dark and introspective nuances in his music. This is a signal that they are aware of the game being played around them and are attempting to take back control of their own narrative. However, the industry will not stand still. At the headquarters of major labels in Los Angeles, new strategies are being drawn up. They see the potential narrative conflict between the global pop star and the avant-garde artist as a very lucrative marketing opportunity. Here's the bitter truth. The perks they have are being used as a tool to spar competition among the fan base, an old tactic that has always worked to increase engagement and sales. American industry watchers coldly revealed that the greater the debate among the ARMY about who is superior, the greater the profits the industry made. It is a vicious cycle that is very emotional and exhausting for anyone involved in IT. As we reflect on all this information, we begin to realize that what we are witnessing today is only the beginning of a great transformation in the history of world music. Jungkook and Jimin are not just K-pop stars trying to succeed in America. They are pioneers who are fighting on the front lines to maintain their integrity amid an industrial machine that wants to turn them into mere data and numbers. Their merits, one in strength and one in softness, are two sides of the same coin that fate is tossing on the gaming table of the global music industry. And while the coin is still spinning in the air, we can all just hold our breath, waiting to see which side it will fall on, while continuing to wonder, what exactly is the price to pay to be the best in the eyes of the world? The real surprise may not lie in who is more powerful, but rather in how the two of them secretly work together to subvert the system that is trying to divide them. There have been reports of secret meetings that were not sniffed by the media, where they exchanged notes and strategies to deal with outside pressure. If this is true, then what the observers of American industry reveal is only a small part of the truth, a distortion deliberately left to cover up the grand plans they themselves are putting together. This is what makes this whole situation so stressful and full of puzzles. Every clue hidden in the lyrics of their songs, every look in their music videos, and every choice on the red carpet has a new, deeper meaning.